think it might reinforce Iran's determination to keep facing down America and try and maintain its weaponization program.
We're joined now live on the line from the USA, Sarah Baxter, who is in the great state of Pennsylvania. Hi to you, Sarah.
Hello, John. Good to be with you.
It's always great to hear your voice. And as always, there's loads to talk about. I want to start with the story that sort of grabbed my attention from very early on. That was the news breaking this morning in the Wall Street Journal that the Trump administration is going to just help the Saudi Arabian government to become a nuclear-powered state, which raises all sorts of fascinating questions, Sarah. Tell me how it's playing over there. I'm assuming bigger and bigger.
Yes, absolutely. People really woke up to the rather shocking news that at the very moment that the US is at war with Iran to stop it becoming a nuclear power, it is doing a deal with Saudi Arabia that puts it on a pathway to civilian nuclear enrichment, which was the very path that Iran embarked on, which is allegedly leading it to become a nuclear power. So the timing is curious, to say the least. And the other thing that should be borne in mind is that this deal, which has been actually long in the making, was supposed to be part of a process linked to Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords and perhaps recognizing Israel one day. But now it's being seen in the US as a means of buying Saudi support for this rather unpopular war with Iran.
Yeah, well, and there would be, I suppose, maybe a bit less disquiet if it was about linking nuclear development with a closer diplomatic relationship with Israel, because that was something that Joe Biden and his administration wanted to achieve by going down the same path. But now we got the Donald Trump, which after all did bring about the Abraham Accords. Obviously, it all went wrong since then, but they're not linking that ambition to this idea now. So there are going to be concerns, aren't there, in Congress, in Washington, D.C. about that and other things too?
Yes, definitely. Members of Congress have already been citing concerns about this, although they've had assurances from Marco Rubio that America will do nothing to enable nuclear proliferation of the military type. So that is reassuring. Yeah. Plus, of course, Saudi Arabia is a vital US ally, but it has led to a lot of head scratching. The trouble is Congress is also waking up to the conclusion that they may not be able to do very much about it.
Yes.
So that's another issue.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, for Congress to do anything about it, i.e. stop it, they would need 2/3 of the House. They need 2/3 of Congress to stop it, and they absolutely don't have that. They need the president to listen to Congress, which he's not generally inclined to do, and there's no law to make him do that by a simple vote. But as you say, as Sandra, it's not just about, America saying it's not going to do anything to help proliferation. They've got to do a lot to stop it. And it's not clear that even with the best will in the world, that's necessarily guaranteed.
Well, that's right. And Donald Trump is doing his salesman job, which is arguing that this is going to bring lots of jobs and money to America because American companies like Westinghouse will be involved in building a nuclear enrichment plant. So there's the plus for America in that. Beyond that, it's hard to see really what the gain is because, as I earlier mentioned, there's no kind of quid pro quo in terms of Saudi Arabia doing anything much more positive towards Israel, which pretty much halted anyway with the outbreak of the Gaza war.
No. Well, but there's something in it for the US economy, and this thing's going to be worth tens of billions of dollars. And Westinghouse, for example, they've got an awfully big stake in all of it. I mean, what they think about of this in Israel, I'm guessing a lot less contentedly about this. Mikey Smith, this is now your patch. What are you thinking?
When I saw this, I was not confused by the story in itself, because I know this goes back to Biden and beyond that Saudi Arabia were being spoken to about this. The timing was confusing to me because obviously, as Sarah knew did, that America is. Donald Trump's big thing at the moment is the Iran war, which he's kind of spiralling about because it's very much threatening to turn into a quagmire, and the whole basis of that he has eventually decided is stopping nuclear proliferation in Iran. Now, Saudi Arabia is not Iran, but they're also not a country that doesn't occasionally kill journalists and do things that America very much does not like. I wonder, maybe Sarah can help with this, was there a rush to get this over the line before the midterms, after which it will be even less likely to, after which Congress might have a shot at blocking it?
Well, I think it was more to do right now with appeasing Donald Trump's Saudi friends. I mean, we've just seen that the Houthis have announced that they're going to try and impose a blockade on Saudi oil coming out of the Red Sea. And, Saudi Arabia has been less affected than some of the Gulf states by the Iran war, but it is a troubling situation for them. They're desperate, along with the rest of the Middle East, for this, apart from Israel, for this war to stop.
Yeah.
And so I think it's seen as good timing from the diplomatic point of view in terms of keeping Saudi Arabia on side. I should add, by the way, that Saudi Arabia has not ruled out getting nuclear weapons one day. Indeed, it has stated that if Iran acquires nuclear weapons, it definitely will try to acquire some itself.
Yes.
So this is not... It hasn't actually agreed never to go nuclear, so to speak. No,
and maybe that's even more menacing than it sounds, because we're told at the moment that the US administration can stop that happening. And you've got Saudi Arabia saying, look, if Iran go there, we're going to go there, which doesn't pay too much heed to the possibility of needing American permission or cooperation. I wonder if we can, Kate Ferguson...
It might reinforce, I'm sorry to interrupt, I think it might reinforce Iran's determination to keep facing down America and try and maintain its weaponization program.
Right. I want to bring Kate in because there's more going on the US front than this. Although this is a very, very big story. Just a couple of hours ago, President Trump was saying, look, if you Iranians keep on attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz, for every time you do that, I'm going to bomb a bridge. I'm going to bomb a nuclear power plant. And now we've got a new Prime Minister, Kate, here, and a lot of his thinking about the US administration is still to be clearly discerned. It makes that, if it's a dilemma, it makes it a slightly tougher dilemma, doesn't it, with that sort of rhetoric coming out of the White House?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a big question here of how does Prime Minister Andy Burnham, deal with Donald Trump in the White House. And to be honest, foreign policy is not something that Andy Burnham has talked much about. So it's still probably the biggest unknown of his agenda. I think he has, or allies of his have confirmed that they're going to carry on losing the bases. So there'll be a continuation of that policy.
On a defensive way.
On a defensive, yeah. Sorry. As is the current position. Defensive.
Yeah.
Not offensive at all, obviously. So yes, I mean, look, clearly, the longer the Iran war drags, the more kind of fiery or retaliatory Donald Trump's rhetoric goes, the more he may escalate the bombing campaign, the more awkward it gets for Britain as their ally. This is a war that Andy Burnham will want to be clear that he's staying out of, just like Keir Starmer was clear he's staying out with. But I suspect we see a continuation of that fundamental policy.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to go back to something Sarah was saying, I thought was so interesting and was what jumped to my mind, which is like, well, obviously Saudi Arabia, Iran, the big two regional rivals. So I would have thought that if on the one hand Donald Trump is giving this nuclear program the big go-ahead green light with Saudi Arabia, obviously a close ally of the US alongside the UK, surely the Iranian regime will think, well, we want to continue with ours even more now because we don't want... it's often the rival regional power that people are most kind of concerned about and see as their biggest rival.
It's got to be a fair point, Sarah, hasn't it?
I totally agree with Kate there. I think this is an incentive for Iran to keep going. On the subject of Andy Burnham, by the way, I'd be relieved, though, this morning, if I were him, to wake up to the idea that Trump is not talking about bombing Pickaxe Mountain anymore, but talking about retaliating against bridges, etc., and if there's any hostilities towards shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Because Trump yesterday was sounding incredibly bellicose about going for the big one, which would require such enormous penetrating bombs to get through the rocks at Pickaxe Mountain deep into in the middle of this great range, that some commentators were speculating that nuclear weapons would be needed. So from that point of view, Donald Trump has backed off somewhat. So that's good news for Burnham.
Yeah, you know what? I can't leave our American conversation without talking about Gianni Infantino. You know, because it is the New York Post which has run the story that Donald Trump quite fancies the idea, or at least recommending, speaks approvingly of the idea of seeing the head of the Global Football Federation, FIFA, who is, I mean, how do I put this? Extraordinarily sycophantic, and the head of, how do I put this? And allegedly extraordinarily corrupt FIFA. He would like to see him leading the United Nations as Secretary General. Now, I mean, I'm not going to say more at that point. I'm going to ask you what you think. Mikey, what do you think?
I mean, he couldn't have picked someone who more people hate, for a start, as I understand it. Look, Trump has a thing about the United Nations anyway. I mean, this would never happen. He would have to get it past the Security Council. It would be... And the rest of the UN.
And
the rest of the UN. It would never happen. I think Keir Starmer's got a much better chance of getting over the line than Gianni Infantino. I think...
And you'd think Trump must know that.
Yeah, he does.
Maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
I think this is all a part of him trying to denigrate the United Nations. You know, he's tried to set up his own rival organisation. He hates the UN much. Yeah. And I think this probably, you can trace back to the escalator breaking down.
Yeah. Kate, Sun on Sunday readers.
I don't know, they'll hate Infantino. You know, the man like roundly booed at like every game that he was pictured at the World Cup. You know, what are those white trainers about when he's getting on stage? Anyway, obviously, like, it's totally bonkers. And I guess, you know, look, we get used to... maybe Trump's trolling ours. Maybe he didn't enjoy the World Cup because the US got knocked out, so now he's just trolling, like, all of the rest of the world by suggesting this, like, much-loathed football boss could become head of the UN.
Sarah, how big a talking point is this? I mean, America got very into it, football, in the course of a couple of weeks. Everyone knows the word, you know, the name Gianni Infantino, and he got up amazingly well with Donald Trump, to put it neutrally. How's this story playing? It's obviously realistically absurd, but how big a story is it?
It's big. It's getting a good belly laugh here because Trump really knows how to push people's buttons. And although the Americans have finally learned who Gianni Infantino is, thanks to the World Cup, there's absolutely no way, and they know it, that he's going to become UN General Secretary. In fact, he's got about much chance of getting that as Donald Trump has of winning the Nobel Peace Prize while he's actively at war with another nation. So forget about it. I should say, by the way, as well, that the UN runs its own Buggins turn, and it appears to be South America's Buggins turn.
Yeah.
At the moment, the favourite is Michelle Bachelet from Chile, Chile's first woman president, who could be the United Nations' first woman General Secretary.
Really? I wasn't aware. I mean, I was vaguely aware that to be UN General Secretary, it probably helps to be a distinguished leader. You do have to be a leader of a nation, a former president, or at the very least a high-ranking and regarded, well, at least in significant circles, diplomats.
I mean, you wouldn't rule out Trump giving him another job on that level. So he could end up as the General Secretary.
Now you've got me wondering, what might that even be?
Secretary General of the Board of Peace, the rival organisation.
How is the Board of Peace?
Hasn't sat since the first time.
Okay.
No, you're right. We haven't heard much about the Board of Peace, and I think Gianni Infantino quite alludes to what he's doing now, and the fact that there's, you know, Europe seems to be rebelling pretty loudly against Gianni Infantino for lots of reasons that we know about, and a few that we may not know about quite so well. He's after a more support. He's canvassing and lobbying. He wants the Asian countries to be on his side when the vote comes, which I think is in the next year. He wants the African countries there. He wants the South American countries there, which I think, from wherever it came from, it's part of the idea. We had 42 members in the final round in this World Cup a couple of weeks ago. The plan is next time it'll be 62.
I see. So to kind of like beef, I see. So he's kind of buying them off by making the tournament bigger and bigger and longer and longer. Yes, kind of everyone shall win prizes, as it were.
And can I just say,
Sarah,
I think that the prizes to be gained from being head of FIFA are infinitely better than the perks of being UN General Secretary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, in terms of, it depends who you are, of course. I mean, the last couple of FIFA heads haven't been the most popular people in the world, or for that matter, the most trusted. It'd be nice to get one who people could actually stand the sight of, as you say.
That won't happen.
No, maybe that's just asking too much. Sarah Baxter in Philadelphia. So great to have you with us. Thank you.